not bore you with that.
My wife tried that.
We can get you a stick, Lori.
Oh, no, I don't need a stick.
The handprints leave marks. Sticks, they can't tell who it was.
Wear gloves. Yeah, yeah.
That too.
Alan was the killer dog. Yeah, geez, we haven't seen Alan in some time. How's it going?
Alan, does that dog come from the girl in the lake?
No, from town.
It just looks almost like
Yeah.
exactly like mine.
They're a little bigger, right?
Yeah, mine's a little bigger. Yeah.
Diane had she got one from there, and it's a little bit bigger.
And what kind is it? A pure poodle?
Well, the powder is mixed.
Oh, okay.
It's like curly.
Pichon. Pichon, is that what they call it? Pouchon. Pouchon.
What have you been doing with your time?
Yeah.
I still have quite a list of things that needed to be fixed.
To-do list?
I know for the lady that bought.
Oh, okay.
Because she had hired a building inspector. The list was 3 miles long, so we took care of the bigger stuff first, and then I was under the gun, and I knew I wasn't gonna complete it
You
in
know, if we set
time.
something on the agenda.
I contacted her, and I told her where we live. For 100 years, a handshake was good. I don't know what's good for you. If I give you my word that everything will be completed, then you still go ahead with the closing.
Well, we had to shut the main. Yeah. I didn't go search it. Doesn't seem like there was another valve anywhere. We looked for one through the cellar and I couldn't find a valve specific for that outlet. No, they stripped it. They stripped it outside. They've been trying to, been working it with pliers.
There's 2 ladies. So they're up here now. One of those 2 ladies just got a job with the school department here. And I saw this morning, Giselle was taking her around over the school. I was in the management there.
Yeah, because it was hitting that wall there in front of it.
And I bet that's,
But, I mean, it's an older building. I'm sure there's a valve somewhere that could have shut it off. We went through the main areas, and other than that, it's in the ceiling. Downstairs. We had to go to the main. Shut the main off. Yeah. Yeah, we shut off the main. Yep. Yeah, so I got no water in the building at all. Nope. No, but it's basically empty anyway for the time being. I mean, I'll get PJ to come tomorrow hopefully, and if I need it, then we'll just turn it on for a while so that you can use it. There's not much around.
Friday, I don't know if you know JR, coffee.
Yeah, well, you know, and I let them know, you know, if you need this, I mean, go ahead. It started with there, and then all of a sudden, these guys got aware that there was water there, so, but it's so hard, huh? It doesn't be used, so it's a hard valve to turn. And there's a handle, I have a handle inside, it's a square valve, huh? So, and they're trying to turn that with pliers and with adjustables, and
Semi or pickup?
I don't. Well, no, and what happens, they went too far. Tried to break the tighten it so that it would shut off completely.
Came up and hit
Now
me.
it strips, it keeps turning. Just turning.
So I got them for free.
You got them for free. You didn't have to pay 35 cents for the boat.
With paperwork.
With paperwork, yeah. It's a sign to turn the air conditioner back on.
Puppy's suffering as much as we are.
I was just gonna say, I need that.
Yeah, you're one that's, I have one or two minutes, right? You just- maybe-
Oh, you have one?
Yeah.
You want to?
Yeah.
You did?
Yes, I do.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. for sure.
No.
Oh, something
No,
different?
no, no, that's not the same thing. I think you do have one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
So it's 5:30, so I'd like to call this meeting to order, our meeting of July 28th. First article to cover would be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So Article 2 is public participation. This is the article where we allow the public to have comments for a few minutes. We're going to allow 10 minutes for this article if we can get it covered in that time. So do we have any questions or anything that we need to discuss under this article? Yep. Go ahead, Alan.
Hey, I'm here for one big reason. I want to know how come Madawaska doesn't have an ordinance on jailbreak?
We don't?
We'll look into it. I mean, it's something that would have had to have come up to the planning board.
I want to have one.
But I think,
Because next to our farm, you had a sign there.
That one's gone.
It's gone, the sign is gone, but the sign was there for the year.
The post was there, but the sign's gone. And the sign going down the KDO school is gone. So, what is it?
we can look into that. We
Uh-huh.
can look into it. I know that with an ordinance for Jake breaks, you have to be pretty specific for the area where they go.
This is it?
They would have to say from where to where. I don't think you can have a town-wide Jake break ordinance. I would have to look into it, but certainly something that we
I
can.
want an answer. I got another problem I got to
Well, I can't give you an answer tonight, so we're gonna
I
have
know
to.
you can, but I'm here for that.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else? Go ahead.
Can we give this gentleman a timeline as to when he's going to get an answer?
Well, we can look at the ordinance, we can look at what we have for any past.
That comes under the noise ordinance, land use code.
We still have the book of ordinances, the police have one and on there. I'm pretty sure there was one passed at one time.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
They have one?
And personally, I'd have no objection to having the Jake break ordinance apply throughout the entire town of Madawaska, back settlements included. Main Street with the back settlements. They have other means of slowing these trucks down, and they don't need to be using Jake brakes, especially in any residential area whatsoever, my opinion.
So what we can do is we'll see what we have on the books, we'll see what's been in the past actions that the board and the planning board may have done. We'll look to see what is lacking, we'll look to see what we can apply, if there's going to be an extension or of the area, of coverage for Jake breaks. If it doesn't cover the whole town, then it's going to have to go before the planning board, and ultimately, as an ordinance, would have to be adopted at town meeting, public hearing, town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, if the law was there before, you don't have to do all that. I don't see why you have to do all that. If the sign were removed, that's it.
I know that the state of Maine has allowed signs to be put up for Jake breaks.
Yeah, when you go to Princeville, they have it, for the whole town of Princeville. Here, there, we had that, I didn't know how far we were going then before. I knew we were starting that at Upper Farm.
And then they go to the Springfield town office, you ask them who put that sign up, nobody knows.
I know that there was a time that I was a selectman in Frenchville, and that came up then as an issue, Jake breaks. And the signs that were allowed, the DOT allowed to be put up were not considered enforceable. Okay, so you could put a sign for restriction of Jake breaks, but they were not something that was enforceable in the court of law. So I don't know if the laws changed, but back then, that's kind of how it was.
Which way you might work, or
Then they passed an ordinance or whatever law, the state of Maine 10 years ago, unnecessary noise. That's when that sign in Springfield said, unnecessary noise. Okay, that sign was put there, nobody knows about it, but it had to be put down by the state, it's the 4x4. And nobody knows who put it up. I've been going around trying to find some answers. Like I said, nobody knows. And I said, well, I'll come to the meeting tonight and I'll find out what's gonna get done. I have signs put up around Mountain Lake. Sick and tired of all them gravel trucks with jig brakes and you got the 18-wheelers and,
So this is an issue more or less around your property?
no, it's on,
On the Lake Shore Road, all the way around?
I live on the other, this is Boyer Road I live on.
Yeah, Boyer Road. Boyer Road runs all the way down to Sear Cove.
Yeah, Sheriff's Court, yes. Town line is over there.
Yep. Okay. You know, you should probably leave your name and address or phone number so somebody can get back to you. Okay? Okay, anybody else?
Maybe I could help with that. Department of Transportation will take care of signs on state roads.
That's a state road I live on.
You live on a state road?
It's a secondary state road.
Well, you
Going
can
around
call
is the
Steve.
state.
Okay, give me a name for call, because I go to Fresh Cow, nobody knows, they don't have nothing to do with Redwood.
You can call Steve Landy, he goes to the Department of Transportation, he takes care of that sort of thing. He can tell you, he can give me an answer.
And the engineer, the dog said, has nothing to do with that, so I said,
Well, I'm at it. I only know two people on the board here, Mr. Picard and Mr. Steer. So I understand these other people here are all brand new selectmen.
Hi, I'm Lori Lyle. I've been on since November.
I'm an Lorraine.
I'm Daniel Daigle,
Right?
glad to be your selectman.
Okay.
Jason Boucher.
Right. I'd like to point out, like, right now, the people that are here on vacation with their ATVs, they have no knowledge that these roads are not legal for ATVs. They don't know this. And most of the people going by Talbot Road where I live are from out of state. Now, if something should happen, some kind of an accident, that's going to be brought out, you know? And how do we know that they're not going to sue us for this?
The Madawaska Police Department actually just released a very nice press release.
I'm sorry, I'll get in front of
I
you.
apologize. The Madawaska Police Department today actually just released a very good, informative pamphlet to discuss the ATV activity in town and how they will be enforcing it a little bit further. So they are addressing the concerns that were brought to them about the ATVs and the issues.
They haven't been enforcing it for the last 2 years.
Right.
I've been trying to get them to do that, and they won't do it.
Yeah, no, they did, and then it is available online, and I believe they posted it on Fiddlehead Focus as well. It's a very informative article that they will start enforcing that, so.
Are you aware that these roads that have all these ATV signs on them, are you aware that they're all illegal? None of them were passed by the town vote. Due legal process. Are you aware of these things?
I'm not aware of any of that. I don't have knowledge about that.
So, do you have any opinion on that? We're leaving ourselves wide open for a big lawsuit if somebody gets killed. So what do you think about that?
definitely think it's something we should discuss with the ATV club, because I know they have procedures to follow to.
Ja, vi snackar det lite längre år nu.
Chris,
Det är tre för det.
this matter has been taken up by the previous board. The previous board addressed the issues, discussed with the ATV club. So it's been before other boards.
So, okay.
Guys, can you wait? Hello, excuse me. Doug, you want your-
Hey, folks.
So, last year, they were talking about the undesignated Talbot Road. They set up, so you people are probably not aware of what happened. They set up, because they're going way over the speed limit, so they set up one of these things that check your speed. And they found that they went at an average speed of 30 miles an hour. Okay, that doesn't sound like much. But on Talbot Road, that was designated an access road about 14 years ago when Christine Therian was the town manager. She proposed this to the town. She was approached by the ATV club, and they asked for that, so she proposed it to the town. The town voted, and the Madawaska ATV club said they would put a sign up at 5 miles per hour if they could get that access road. So it was voted on and it passed, 5 miles an hour. And after about 1 or 2 years of the sign being there, it disappeared. And everything went along pretty well again for the next 8 to 9 or 10 years. But these last 2 or 3 years, there's a big difference in the behavior of the people. So I thought I would go to the police and ask them to put that 5 mile an hour sign back there again, hoping that they'd slow down when they saw that. And it didn't work out. And, the president of the ATV club refused to put a 5 mile per hour sign there. And it just went on like that.
Well, Mr. Talbot, we're certainly not going to resolve the entire situation here tonight.
No, I'm
With
sure
support
that.
from other board
I
members.
just want to give you a general thing of what's been going on the last couple of
With
years.
support from the board, I'd ask Gary within the next couple days to get in touch with the chief of police and the president of the Madawaska ATV Club, find out where we stand legally with the laws of the state of Maine, and with Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, get a clear answer for Mr. Talbot.
It's completely against the law.
Well, if we are against the law, Mr. Talbot, we're going to look to bring this into compliance as soon as we
I have
possibly
papers
can.
from the law library, and I can show you all this stuff.
Okay, well, I'd ask Gary to look into this.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
So the board, I wish the police department were here tonight to speak as to the board discuss this at length. The state law is clear, and the municipalities do not have jurisdiction to establish speed limits for ATVs on roads. That jurisdiction lies within the state of Maine and not the town. So whether or not the town,
Wait a minute.
whether or not the town,
You get this from a,
Mr. Talbot, let's keep it to like 2 minutes, please.
We can add this to it.
let's get this resolved, another few minutes. You say it's up to who?
the town doesn't have the jurisdiction to establish speed limits for ATVs.
That's not what Steve Landry says. Besides that, Brian Bronson, in charge of the governor's ATV program, he told me that it's the Madawaska club that put the signs up. What do you think of that? Okay, you don't want to hear any more? You people want to finish this one?
Well, like Gary mentioned earlier, the previous board did work with the ATV club, and there are provisions for trails using the roadway to get from one trail to the next. So I feel confident that the previous board may have done it correctly with the...
Yeah, but there's a lot to this.
Yeah.
It's not simple.
Right. No, I'm not saying it is. It's something we can still look into to get you a definite answer. But, you know, I think if it was done legally through the previous board and the ATV club, we can look in to make sure that it is completed.
And none of these roads none of these signs that the roads, none of these roads that the signs were put up on were done with due legal process. None of them.
Yeah.
Except mine, except the road that I live on.
No, we can definitely look into that and make sure that they were.
And if the people don't want this road, they can buy a small piece of land or something if they want to go fast. One guy went 12 miles over the limit. I mean, 12 times over the limit. 12 times. Okay, never mind, I guess you're getting tired of hearing me, so I could go on some more if you want me to.
We're not trying to ignore you. It's just, we're not trying to ignore you. This is
No,
a
I
period of
understand
public
that. I don't want to
participation.
take it
Well,
over here.
And this is a period of public participation. You brought this to our attention. Apparently, there's a big history to
Right,
this.
okay.
None of us sitting here know the law. So we really need to do our homework. If we need to bring it back to the board as an agenda item, then we certainly will.
Maybe
But
the-
you have to give us an opportunity
Maybe
to do the
the six
homework.
of us could get together and talk about this.
Well,
Because I-
we might be able to put it on
Because
the
I
agenda.
went through a lot of this stuff already with the state.
Well, I don't think we're gonna solve it here tonight.
No,
Is my
no,
point.
no.
Is my point. So, we really just, we're not ignoring you.
Okay, I don't want to take any more of your time, but I'll be around.
Anybody else?
Well, there's only one.
Yeah, Paul, go ahead.
The only thing that this work has noticed is the black pickup coming around Kmart, because there's a lot of noise on the pickup, and the people complaining about that noise. I wonder if there's a possible way if that can be settled. The black pickup riding around through the Kmart parking lot, it's making so that it's pipe noise. It's a black pickup.
Okay.
I'll bring that up now.
Okay, noted, so we'll see about reaching to the police department.
Exactly.
Are we all set with Article 2?
Yeah, I don't know if that's enough.
Yep, go ahead.
Very quickly, first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate our two recently elected officers. My position was unopposed, so that was kind of like whatever you might call it, but I'd like to congratulate Mano and Jason. I would also like to thank David Moran, a past selectman, for his time, the amount of hours that he spent looking to represent the taxpayers of this town fairly. I have to appreciate his vision for the town, as well as his frustrations with the town, and appreciate how frugal he was. As I serve on this board, I think you might come to the conclusion we were probably cut from the same cloth. I am not a spender. I'm here to represent the taxpayers of Madawaska, and I vow to do my very best to keep spending to a minimum, especially during the times that we're living in now. Money is tight, not only tight in the community, but it's tight in the pockets of the taxpayers. So my pledge to the taxpayers of the town of Madawaska is to do my very best. And that's all of that I can promise. Thank you.
Don't forget to thank Don Chassis also, right?
You know, we're going to come into we're going to move to Article 9 here, I believe, where we're going to elect a chair and a vice chair. And I was going to wait for that to happen before I started making some of the same comments that Mr. Daigle is making. But yes, you're absolutely correct that Mr. Don Chassis needs to be recognized. So, having said all that, is there something else that you wanted to add?
I just have one question pertaining to being brought up to speed with particularly some of the executive sessions, which I understand can't be discussed in an open forum, but I have a list of articles that came to the board in previous meetings that I feel have been unanswered. I'd just like to know when and how will be the proper way, procedure to address these issues.
So would this fall under Article 3?
I'm not sure, I'm relying on the chairman.
Well, I would say that that's where we should discuss that.
Okay,
So again, to come back to the thought that we want to bring Article 9 up at this point to elect a chair and a vice, is that something that we want to consider at this time?
If we're at Article 3 to consider adjustments to the agenda, then yes, I would make a motion that we discuss Article 9 right now.
Which is where we're at.
Legally, we'd have to table Article 3 and then open up.
So at this point then, if we're going to consider Article 3, we have to table Article 3 and move to Article 9. Is that correct? Is that correct?
I would say that when you consider other business, adjustments to the agenda, any other business, whatever you think you might want to add to the agenda, and whatever you would want to shuffle would be part of the action of Article 3. I don't think it necessarily shuffles Article 3.
It is part of.
It's part of it. So if there's anything you want to swap
Can you
around
speak
or add
louder,
to,
please?
sorry, if there's anything that would want to be added to the agenda, if there's anything that would need to be added to the agenda or moved, it would fall under Article 3. And Article 3 would be done at that point.
All right, so any other questions there? If there are none, then let's open up the floor and entertain Article 9, which is to appoint a chair.
I would nominate Doug for chair.
Second that.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And for the seat or the office of vice chair.
Nominate Lori for seat of vice chair.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Very well. Congratulations, Lori.
Congratulations, Doug. Thank
Very
you
good.
guys for your confidence.
Okay. Any other business under Article 3?
I do.
Okay.
I just want to say that I went to the new business Saturday, SNC Homemade Jewelry and More, located on Main Street, close to where J&R Computer used to be.
Mm-hmm.
She opened up a brand new little store.
Mhm.
It's really nice. She offers a lot of things for the community, so I know Lori wants.
I know, but you speak
but
louder, sorry.
I went to a new little business Saturday called SNC Homemade Jewelry and More. It's located right where G&R Computer used to be located. She has all sorts of jewelry in there, but other stuff as well, and she custom orders anything as well. So if anybody has a chance, go visit, support our local businesses. And my second item was I had a neighbor who approached me. The building where the former Family Dollar, Spectrum, their apartments on top. I've been noticing a lot of strange activity going there, people going in and out and whatever. These two women are scared because they come in the middle of the night and they're sitting in their backyard and they'll disappear. They're afraid of somebody breaking into their home. So I don't know if there's any way for us to board up those apartments. Are there squatters there? Or are there weird things going on in that place? I mean, there are strange people coming in, especially at night, and I see it from my home. Last year was coolers, and they took off with the ACs, and all sorts of people going in and out of there. It becomes a liability for the town if someone should get hurt. It's our property. So it's more than just the police maintaining and watching. There's actually, that needs to be boarded up for our own good and for the neighborhood as well. That's what I'm suggesting, to look into it at least.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lori, before you go ahead, and I have a good idea where you're going, can I make a few comments
Oh, yeah.
just before? Again, I mean,
I'm in no hurry.
huh?
I'm in no hurry.
Again, I want to congratulate our new board members. You have elected to become representatives of the townspeople, and that's a tough task. You know, we're now answering to 2 or 3 bodies and not to just one. So I congratulate you guys. I think, looking at this board, I think we have a lot of talent here. There's a lot of people that have a lot of good talent, good thoughts, and I think that we can move this town forward. I want to thank Dave Bourne, and I also want to thank Don Chassie. Both those gentlemen have served this town, this community well, countless hours. Their knowledge, their expertise, their willingness to listen, they both made excellent board members, and I want to thank them both for their service. That's it.
I'm not sure how to, I know what I want to do. Do you mind, I'm not sure how to make this motion. Like, how do I read off, like I have to say the statute and the, I want to make a motion that we go into executive session. It could be after Article 7, and it would be
So you don't want to do this now?
No, I would rather get rid of regular business, but
Okay.
I want to add it to the agenda. I just don't know, like, my motion is supposed to reference, I think, the statute. Gary, is that right?
Yes, if you have a certain specific reason, you have to have a specific reason for executive session in the law. Title 145 cites those reasons.
I'm violating the 6-foot rule.
And so, I'm guessing that you're
Right here.
interested in
And
going
this.
into an executive session for personnel.
Yes, so do I have to motion?
So you need to cite Title 1, Section 405, 6A. And you need to be specific about, what the discussion is going to be for the executive session. If it's a personnel matter, whatever, but the law is clear, you have to kind of cite a specific reason. The law doesn't allow executive sessions just for executive session.
Prior to your motion, Lori, just food for thought. Going into executive session on my part as a selectman is going to be extremely limited. I have opposition to going into executive session on a lot of issues that I know for a fact were discussed in executive session where it wasn't warranted, and we wonder why our taxpayers and some of our citizens get so upset and go on to Facebook and rattle off, accusing everybody from the garbage collector to the town manager and everyone in between about playing games of hide and go seek. My platform, when I put my name in to be on the ballot as a selectman, one of my biggest things was transparency. I believe there's been a serious lack of transparency in the dealings of the town. I also feel that the span of time between meetings is far too great. I believe that the Board of Selectmen needs to be much more in tune with developments and progress in the community, and I believe that it's of utmost importance to keep the community well informed as to what's going on, and the community likewise should feel equally at liberty to come into the town office and get the information that they need or get the information that they're requesting in a timely manner.
So if I'm gonna make a motion and nobody wants a second, that's fine. Then it's open for discussion.
Right.
And then we'll vote to see if we want to do this.
Okay.
If you would allow me to make the motion.
I'm okay with that.
And if you actually look at 6A number 1 on the paper I gave you, that is the reason. And if we don't, Dan, there are some things, yes, you don't discuss in executive session, but then there are other things too, out of fairness to an employee or to, other people involved, you don't air personnel issues out.
No, absolutely not. No. I hear you, and if I
allow
want.
me to make the motion, let me stumble through this, and then that's fine. If there's no second and there's no, that's okay.
Okay.
Okay? So I would make a motion that per Title 1, Chapter 13, Section 405, we go into executive session per number 6,
6A.
6A,
Yeah.
for a discussion of consideration of appointment, assignment, duties, promotion, demotion. Do I need to read the whole thing, or?
No.
And that would be, and we will be discussing assignment of duties and basically the board's expectation.
I second that.
All in favor?
Well, you have to open it for discussion. Which Dan already did, but.
Which,
We're gonna learn here, Doug.
so we have to go into discussion before we go in? Okay,
No,
so
you have to open it to discussion. First, second, is there any discussion?
that's what I'm saying. We have to have discussion here
Before we vote.
before we vote.
Because he doesn't want to go into executive session maybe, or he may have a reason why he doesn't want to.
All right, so is there any more discussion? You know, if I may, I mean, Gary would have the right to sit in,
Yes, he's gonna come.
and he might not. I'm not sure if he will. I am certainly with the same idea that Dan has brought up. Whether it's an executive session or whether it's not, these issues are going to get discussed, and if they're discussed openly, if he's with us, whether we have people here or whether we don't, I don't know that we necessarily need to go to an executive session. So I will only make that comment. If the board decides or votes that we do go into executive session, I'll be fine with that. But at this point, I'm stating that I don't know that it makes a difference whether we do or we don't. We can discuss issues openly because he's going to be with us one way or the other. He's going to be there to hear what we have to say. We don't have the right to decide whether he's going to be with us or not. He's going to be there. So if there's a thought that we're going to hold back for whatever reason because he's in with us, then why go to executive session?
Because he basically has a right to privacy, and as any employee, I don't know what someone else might say, so I guess I'm trying to allow him that privacy. I mean, we have never, I came on in November, there was never a discussion what the duties of the town manager were, so we were 4 board members pulling in separate directions, nobody was rowing the same way. And I know there are some specific things that we would like to discuss, but then there are reasons that they can't be done that also are personnel issues that are private. So it's fine with me if you don't want to do that.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm open to either or.
My only thing was not, honestly, to create more Facebook fodder, because one thing that's said by a board member to say, okay, like, this is a procedure that we understand is supposed to be being done, and it's not, why not? He's not going to feel free to explain, because there's maybe another personnel reason why it's not getting done.
But then let's do it.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
you can't just start throwing employee stuff.
I personally feel that he's very transparent only because I work closely with him, but I can understand that there are issues there, concerns there, that's not maybe true for everybody, but anyway, I am ready to have that, or continue that discussion, or ready for the vote, one way or the other. I understand, Lori, and I'm ready to.
What if we want to talk about a health issue and a time miss? Like, you don't discuss that out in the public on
Yep.
Facebook.
Yeah. No, and you're right. It's only with the idea, I guess, that I don't see, I guess I don't know just what the questions might be. So again, I mean, I'm always thinking that things are very transparent here, but that's not always perceived that way. So
In any business, you never talk about employee relations or issues or objectives or goals or You know, you guys asked me to do an employee evaluation on Gary. I came in November, had no idea what the expectations were. There were no goals in front of me to say whether he accomplished this or not, or did this or did that. And he wanted me to fill out, which would determine if he could have a raise or if he would, you know, have, it's just not right.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
we have to all row in the same
All right.
direction. you
And
know?
so I understand it.
And in all fairness, I don't want him pulled in 5 directions either. You know, we have to agree on.
All right. Do we have any more discussion? Yep.
I just have a question, and Gary, don't feel that we're picking on you, but I'm just curious as to where do we draw the line, you know, like, as far as expectations of the town manager, don't you think that's something that the townspeople should have some input, expectations, and knowledge of?
So we don't need
Where
to,
do
we
we
don't
draw
need
the
to,
line?
we don't need to ask that question in executive session then. We don't need to have that brought up. I mean, we'll just bring up what we feel is important, right? Or what people want to have to say. I guess that's the big issue because some people want to take this to executive session.
See, some of the specifics of Article 6 that allows you to go into executive session involve some of these that I think should be public knowledge.
And so what I'm saying is, why then do we go to executive session at this point?
Well, like Lori did mention, you know, if an individual has health issues, whatever the case might be, some of these things are very, very private in nature as far as I'm concerned.
Well, then, you know, I guess at this point, you know, we all have our thoughts about executive sessions, and I think we should, my personal thought is I think we should go into executive session. And let's hear what needs to be said, and if there are things that we want to eliminate or we don't want to discuss, or if there are things that I mean, I'm very open to Lori's motion here, and I have no problems with it. I just want to make sure.
What if I was going into that session and I was saying, oh my God, like, you really suck, and you haven't done any, like, performed any of the work. You just, that's not, that's not where I'm going, that isn't it at all, but we're all gonna be expected to fill in, a personnel evaluation in a short period of time, and you're gonna find questions on that evaluation that, who set the goals? How do we even know, you know? And in all fairness to Gary, I just don't think that there's, like I said, in any business, you don't discuss personnel issues like that, or personnel stuff out in. Yeah, I'm just trying to protect
Well, I don't
him,
mind
really.
doing that.
I mean,
I have no issue with the person going into executive session.
Okay, so let's try to move forward here. Is there any other discussion?
One question, how about coming back to other stuff that has come up at other meetings that are still, in my opinion, unresolved? I've got a whole list, and I don't want to take up the whole meeting tonight. I don't know if you want to set up a separate meeting for that, or if...
Do you think?
Can we go into executive session, please?
Yeah, let's take care of that first. Let's take care of that first, Dan. Let's go to executive, well, I want to ask for a vote to go into executive session, and then we'll issue those issues that you have. But I think you should make those, available to this board, you know, so we can look at them, and I think maybe on the next meeting, we could look at all of them, you know, because it looks like you have a list there.
Well...
So anyway, all right, so,
you
there's
have
a vote.
first, and you have a
Second.
motion, and you have a second.
Right, so all in favor? Opposed? We're going to go into executive session at, what time
Did
is
you
it?
vote?
We just voted?
No, did you vote?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, my vote counts. Yeah, I was there. It's 6:09. Okay, so is it decided what room we're going to?
It's gonna be
Okay.
fast.
How long?
Yeah.
Good question.
Give us a...
No, it'll be fast.
Yeah.
Well, unless they are.
I would like to be included in the meeting with the police chief, okay? Is that all right?
Mention it to the town manager,
Uh,
or give it to the, leave a note with our lady that's taking minutes, and she'll get the message to the town manager in the morning.
Okay, thank you. Who's running the show right now? Mr. Davis, are you in charge?
Oh, no, I'm the newcomer.
He's just been coming to the show.
You can't go there.
I want to be included in the meeting with the police chief. How's that?
We will.
Thank you.
What's your
My number? 895-3427. Right.
and the president of
Is he gonna be there? Well, if we can get him, yeah.
Sarge, keep that
Maybe he
sheet,
can
that's
do some
all.
explaining.
Keep
He's
the
saying
sheet
that
I gave
they
you.
had nothing to
You
do.
can bring it home.
Oh, yeah?
Well, just bring it in.
All right.
I do.
You look at
You
it.
think we'll get all this straightened out?
Yeah, I know, I do all the time, I bring it home.
Okay.
Somebody's
Somebody's gonna have to be coming up with some answers.
No, it's
All right.
I guess. Ready for a nap.
You have a telephone where you are?
Well, I think I got it.
Okay. You call, I don't, I'll give you my number. You can call me, and we'll get you started with Mr. Landry. If that guy doesn't fix your problem, I'll call his boss, and he'll do it. They don't like to do these sign things here. This is handed to them from another department, so he's probably gonna give you some baloney.
I can write down the phone number before you start doing the pen. Or you can write it down. Here you go, come on.
I can leave it on.
Okay, all right.
I don't know. It doesn't look good. What happened to you?
I got hit by a horse,
That's what it is, huh?
and not the one I had home, no.
Not the one that you had at the mills either,
Oh,
huh?
by the way, they're not supposed to put signs up or take them down unless they get permission from the town, if it wasn't town. You're on the state road?
I don't want all my.
Oh, wow. That's the town.
No, that's the state road.
That's better.
I was waiting for your brother for a long time ago. You're,
That's a DOT problem.
who for?
Yeah, exactly, I know where you live. That's what.
Makes sense.
Well, wait, I tell you this, the state is opening all the roads to ATV.
The state?
Yeah.
We get put signs up. Route 1?
No, Route 1. Down in the line.
Yes,
I don't think they have any.
Yeah, state road, the cemetery there, or Boyd Road. All the way to the Senegal, too, Senegal, like the town line there.
This guy, Steve Lennon, he's gonna tell you, they think of.
I know,
So you complaining about the ATV signs?
No, I'm complaining about Gateway. He did it because I argued it out.
Okay, yeah.
That state one.
Yes.
Kind of hard.
Yeah. Even.
Is it under your name?
Okay.
Once it's under your name,
The state gave us permission to ride.
come see me. I'll get you a form. Fill out.
You can't
And it'll have to be your name for 1 full year, and then you can get that.
If you look at St. Clair, from the market store to the sporting club, ATV access.
The big problem is, most of the people don't know what the laws are.
Right, so when
So that's why they can tell you
takes actually taken out because he can't, because,
How do you know if he's there? I was there.
right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's not his house. If he has the key, he buys it, it's ownership of yours.
Where was that thing there? They were taking long like construction, and a little bit of trade, okay? And then,
Died,
a week later,
but, give that.
the town, I mean, the
I have to do some research on those properties.
removing the sign.
Let me go get a piece of paper, I'll take your name and number down, we can talk in the morning, I'll give you a call.
So you don't want that near you then? You don't want the ATV going
Well,
by?
it's right the road, I can't do nothing, it's stick on the road, but I can't see.
Well, they have a lot of strict laws, that they're supposed to be, street running.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
But you
saying.
can't do it here because there's no shoulder. There's no shoulder.
And what's the
But
first
see, a
name?
lot of different, I was seeing ride on the asphalt, then one road on the shoulder, and one road goes, and that's right there, but then side by
And
side,
let me
they
see,
go like
give
crazy.
me the address of both rental shops on Pleasant, right? That's the number.
You drive a car, right?
I got it.
Okay, you got it. That's all right.
And he can't do nothing, because they, last year,
Boom.
put the signs up, it didn't
What's the
grade.
address of your house?
ACLU might be there.
Read it for me.
Or the Attorney General's office might be.
I'm waiting until somebody gets killed.
That
And everything.
won't be, it won't take long.
And then the
When
state-
somebody gets killed,
And then the state gonna get
Like I said,
killed.
if you're not there, I'll go out.
Both the town and the state will get
And now, see, they're not saying nothing, they don't know about it, but all the access roads, they're all ATV, open to
You
ATV.
did that
right?
that night, you put it up that night.
I don't know, I go like, well, you go and you go home.
Each sign that's put up, they can put somebody in prison for 6 months on a $12,000 fine.
But I know when you go up Lavasu Road, when you go home there, you see that sign there, right there, ATV grant. All the secondary,
I've been trying to tell people that nobody cares.
yeah, no, they don't care no more. The club is with that, they won't, I said, what the hell, they need trails then if they gotta ride the road.
Yeah, they have some right on the road, on some roads, not all the roads.
Most of the side road, I'm going to the ATV trail.
That's it, they don't have the right, they don't have the right on all the roads. They could, some road, it's from one trail to the other.
Hey,
No, but that's what it's supposed to be.
yeah, that's what's supposed to be, but you go to, Lavasu Road there, again, you can use that road, then you gotta turn going towards Al Gerard, that's all opened up to ATV. And then from Sears Cove to Al Gerard, that's a state road, secondary, okay? Now, the Lake Shore Road is open to ATV.
All the way.
All the way to the other end. And then the Bakers is open, the guys.
Oh, but they be great, I understand that.
Yeah, but the Bakers, they gotta go through, they come through, and they come all the way to Sears Cove, then they go to here in town.
And you don't have all that, right?
Mr. DeForest, excuse me.
Yeah.
You remember years ago when they put the sludge shit all over the roads here?
Yeah.
You remember that?
I don't remember that. I probably didn't hear that now.
Oh, yeah,
Down south.
the state tried to make people
You
accept
know,
that,
I moved a few times.
and they're doing the same thing now with the ATVs. They didn't win then, and they're not gonna win now either.
Well, sign got in. The club is winning.
People that put those signs up are gonna be in big trouble.
That's what I say when it is, somebody don't make the open, then I'll get sued. They pay more taxes.
I would go see the president, top president, I was talking to him, and then I was talking about for building.
Just running the chain.
And yet, the sign is posted that goes Madawaska, Bridgeville, or Senegal,
Oh, okay, I didn't.
in Sears Cove. Okay? And now they stayed because they had there, he had he cried at the state that, because a lot of them, when they ATV there, they come from Kent, Bridgeville, and they come down to the
It's against the law to ride an ATV on a public road.
road.
It's against the law to ride an ATV on a public road.
I like, the state is giving them permission, so what are you gonna do? It's
The
against the
state
law.
can't do that. They gotta, the legislature's gotta do that.
They're doing it now.
Well, they're taking a chance.
Well, taking that chance, that's been going on for, Madawaska been going on
What
for
do you
about
think,
5 years.
what do you think's gonna happen if somebody gets killed on that?
They're gonna sue. You think what's gonna happen, they're gonna sue.
They're gonna what?
They're gonna sue.
That's
They're
right.
gonna sue the state. And who's gonna pay? We are, because we're paying taxes.
That's why we ought to fix that now, not wait for somebody to get killed.
Wow. They won't do nothing.
Who won't do that?
The state are opening up their trail, you can't say nothing to that. Whoever's in charge of the fiscal, or whatever, who's in charge.
make a motion that we
Come out of executive.
exit executive session with no action.
And I'll second.
With no action. Nothing else needs to be said about that. We don't need to,
No, there was no action, there's no
so
action.
there's nothing else to do with that. Okay, so we came out of executive session at what, 6:50, 6:53. Okay, moving on, I think we're down to Article 4, to consider the treasurer's warrants. Do I have a motion that we accept the treasurer's warrants?
Did everybody get to sign them? I didn't go.
Carol is, right, hey Carol, Carol has all the warrants here, she brought them for your convenience.
Oh, okay, good.
Yep.
Do you got, so what's a
You just need a motion to
procedure?
accept the treasurer's warrants, and then you guys can sign.
I'll make a,
Sorry.
no, you go ahead.
I motion to accept the treasurer's warrants.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, Article 4. Article 5, to consider the certificates of settlement by the Board of Assessors for the former tax collector.
Mr. Chair, can I?
Yep, go ahead.
elaborate? So, each municipality in Maine, under Title 36 for taxation, commits the taxes to a tax collector. It's an old state law, and the tax collector is responsible for collecting those taxes. So those taxes every year, we do the tax commitment process. They are committed to the tax collector, and when the tax collector leaves that tenure, we have to settle the taxes and recommit the taxes to the new tax collector. So the process to, Carol came to us, it took a while, she found her way, and we're very glad to have her. But now we're at the point that we have to settle the taxes for the 3 tax years, 2017, 2018, and 2019. Releasing Dana Jandro, the previous tax collector, of her obligation to collect those taxes. And reassigning that, and what you'll see is, it will be the second part of, it will be in the next Article 6 is recommitting those taxes that are owed to the town to the new tax collector. So if you will, I didn't have a specific, I couldn't give you exactly what they were for each year because the number changes. It depends if we collect payments or not. I could only print out the actual today, because today we're going to recommit to her. And so if you will, if you look on the certificate of settlement, there's 3 of them. The 2017 tax year, the 2018 tax year, and the 2019 tax year. And in there, it basically lays out what's owed in real and personal property tax, supplemental billing, interest, gives you your grand total, any abatements, and what is basically the balance that needs to be collected for each year. So with that said, does anybody have any questions about the process for settling with the tax collector?
Any questions? So again, at this point, we're looking for a motion for the certificate of settlement.
For the 2017, 2018, 2019 taxes.
2019 taxes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second? Lori? All in favor? Opposed? Article 6, to consider the certificates of recommitment by the Board of Assessors for Carol Albert, the new tax collector.
Okay, so part of the whole recommitment process is obviously we settle with the previous tax collector, we need to recommit. In this recommitment amount as the aggregate for the 3 tax years, what's basically owed to the town for personal property and real taxes. For your action today, I would suggest that you make your motion. I suggest that you just read this certificate of recommitment to Carol out there. If you will.
Okay, to Carol Albert, tax collector of the municipality of Madawaska. Herewith are committed to you true lists of the assessments of the estates of the persons therein named. You are to levy and collect the same of each on his or hers respective amount, therein set down of the sum total of $539,324.77, being and yet uncollected amount of the lists contained herein, according to the tenor of the foregoing warrant. So do I have a motion? So moved. Mr. Daigle, second. No? Any discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
We'll let you guys leave without having a bunch of papers to sign tonight.
Article 7, to consider the authorization of the finance director as signatory to the town's bank accounts. Ken, I need a motion.
Can I,
Yep. Go ahead.
so, any bank account needs two signatories. In Madawaska, traditionally, it's always been the town manager and the finance director / tax collector. This action here, you have a letter that was included. There was a typo in the previous one, I noticed. I just changed it a little bit to reflect that. Took out a word. So your motion to do that, Carol would be designated by you to be co-signatory to the town's bank accounts where we have our BUI base, which is TD. Excuse me, the town trust. Used to be TD.
So are you asking me to reword this, to add Carol's name on there, or are we all right with the motion as?
I would just say your motion would authorize Carol to be the signatory, and then you, after we're done, we'll have you guys sign this here.
I make a motion to authorize Carol as the signatory for the town's bank accounts.
Second.
A second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Article 8. Are we all set to go discuss Article 8 at this point, or would anybody want to consider tabling this for the next meeting, or are we still good to go? Next meeting, I'm assuming, is going to be sometime next week, and I just want to make sure that we're running on time here a little bit. So we're 5:30, where are we?
7:01.
Oh, so 6:30, so we still have a half an hour. We're good.
As long as I'm at the bakery at 5.
All right, Article 8, board members' planning discussion. So this article is basically to ask the board members a short brief on what they would like to accomplish, what some of their goals might be in a relatively short amount of time, so that we as board members can, and I believe this to be like marching orders as much for me as for anybody else. I mean, if there are some real important issues here, I want to be the first to take them up, and I want to be the first to help put them across and make sure that they get done. So I guess, Lori, since you're sitting across from me, I would ask maybe that you could start.
Okay, so I guess one of the things I would like to see on a future agenda is us to discuss what the board bylaws are and consider, because I've heard that it's been considered before and never followed through, whether we need a charter, whether we just need to look at the ordinances. There are some that may, in regards to the board and how we operate over the years, just may not be right anymore. So I want to review those. I did ask Gary for a copy of whatever was available for us. We may not need to create a charter, but I want us to review that. It's something I honestly feel we should get the minute we start on the board. And just make sure that, you know, we all feel like that document is correct and make sure we're actually following it. I think things get you know, over the years, new boards, new managers, and things get lost a little bit. So I just want to make sure that we're actually doing what we're supposed to. My other big one is, and I'm not picking on anyone in particular when I say this, but there are many times I want to work on the budget. We have to work on this year's budget. But there are many times that I hear, as I'm sure all of you, cut, get rid of this department, change this, why is the school budget this, why are we running, this department at this amount, and there's all these things that get thrown around, and there are consequences to eliminating a department. There's no easy fixes for this budget, and some of these things that are suggested, I think, might be near impossible to accomplish. But I think that it would be a good idea to have maybe a small group of people. There used to be a resource committee back in the day, for example, that did some research on whether they should close the library and have it at the school, and there are security issues with that. And they did research on whether they should consolidate the two school buildings. And it's easy for someone to come and say, oh, we don't need a police department, have the sheriff come. Well, that's a big... there's some big negatives to that. So I feel like maybe we should have this resource committee be resurrected, and a group of us and townspeople and people that want to be involved should get together and actually explore some of the suggestions that are just coming out from the public, and either say, yes, this might be feasible to help us balance this budget, or no, and here's why. And have some facts that we can actually bring back to the people and say, the case may happen that the budget's the budget, and there's no, 3 meals to cut backwards, and there's no, but I feel like we need to work on proving that one way or another, and we need to give some credence to what people are asking of us. So I would like to see us discuss maybe on another agenda, revitalizing the resource committee, or call it a budget advisory committee, or, because you cannot expect the finance committee to come in and us as new board members and sit here and say, yeah, we're going to cut 3 mills. My gosh, you're limiting 3 departments. What do we know about that? It's not feasible. So I feel like at least if we had a committee together that could really do some homework and present us with things. So those are my 2 big things, I guess. Sorry, it was a brief.
Manon, do you want to go next?
I just would like to see if we can, I don't know how recent the personnel handbook has been updated. That has to be a constant working edition, because some things change every day, every year, different issues. And the other thing is a way to encourage small businesses to come. Not looking at big block stores, those won't come, but somehow an incentive for people to open up little businesses. Because eventually they'll employ maybe 1 or 2 people, and maybe we'll have a downtown that'll be alive again. Look at maybe what really this town needs for like a laundromat, for instance. We have no laundromat in town. So maybe that's something somebody could look into. But somehow we need to find something to revitalize our town, not just infrastructure, aesthetics, but businesses that bring taxes and employ people. That's my issues.
Dan?
Whether we like to face it or not, this town, this entire country is in a financial crisis. My platform, when I put my name on the ballot to run for selectman, was that any unnecessary spending would be top priority for me. Then people will ask, well, what's your criteria for measuring how necessary something is? I've always conducted my own personal business, return on investment. It's that simple. Running any business, every time you invest any amount of money, you have to revisit it periodically and see what the return on investment is. And I don't think that this town should be exempt from that measuring stick if we're to survive. Again, the Board of Selectmen and the town manager have come under fierce attack, accusing them of not bringing new businesses to town. That is easier said than done. I'm of the mindset that an equal amount of effort in whatever form should be to help out the existing businesses so that they don't go under. Economic development plays a large role in this. Again, we need to be very proactive in these areas. Another sore subject in my mind is the tax issue with Twin Rivers. I believe this needs to be revisited at all costs. If my figures are correct, it leaves this town in excess of $1.5 million short to meet the budget. Right now, our roads in Madawaska are in disarray, and it's just like a roof that's leaking. It doesn't look all that bad, and you put it off and you put it off. And 5 years later, you peel that roofing back and half your roof is rotted out, and the project becomes a nightmare. And that's exactly what's happening to our road systems in Madawaska. I want to commend Kevin and his group, because I ride on it every day. They repaired a short section on the Gango Road. That is ready for paving. These are the kind of things that we need to look at, because if we don't have roads in Madawaska, businesses aren't coming here if they have to come here in a horse and buggy. So those are my big ones.
Okay.
Well, now I got to follow all of that, so. My biggest goal is infrastructure. You know, like Dan says, we need to make sure that our roads are paved, that we have a beautiful town for people to come into, and make this town a place that our kids and our grandkids can be proud to come back to. When I left Madawaska and I started working in Portland, everybody was like, oh, you're from the county. And they had this high regard for people in the county and for the towns up here. And I want all the townspeople not only to be proud of their town, but to be proud of any board that's sitting and their town manager and everybody involved. We need to work all together. And that's my goal here, is to bring the town together, whichever way we can.
Of course, I've got a few items here. One is that I think we've really neglected to reach out on a state level. We don't have good representation, or we're not privy, or we don't have access to our representatives enough. I think we need to certainly widen that scope and reach out to our state representatives. I think we need to request that they come. They can certainly look at what we've done, what we're doing, and then maybe help us with some future projects that we are looking at. Tourism is a big, big issue for us, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger every day. For some, that's good. For maybe a few, that's not so good. But snowmobiling is a big, big, major activity here. ATV is a big activity here. Biking is going to become a big activity here. Skiing, Four Seasons. Those are all assets that we have here that we need to capitalize on. I've been, in my history, my work history, I mean, I've shipped people all over the world, and it's time now that I start thinking about focusing, bringing people here. We have something here. We have something that's attractive enough for them to come. So I'm looking to develop that in as many ways as I can. You know, sometimes we think that some of these things are impossible, but you look at Joe and Diane Lachanos and what they've done. You know, it's phenomenal that these two people, just by something that they enjoy, which was biking at that time, brought this on to this town. And for many of us, we considered that to be just a thought. It wasn't only because we didn't understand, but look at it today. You know, and they didn't look for funds. They didn't look for a handout. You know, they found their own way, and I think those opportunities are still there. And I think with COVID-19 at this point, I think a lot of people are looking to move out of the cities. And if we can find a way to move them back home, and I'm saying back home because you might find some of the odd people that are just going to point a finger at the map somewhere to get away from the city and find their way here. But for the folks that I'm more interested in, it would be the people that have been here, that have left, to find a way to get them back. And I think we need to address that even at the school level. You know, go out, find work, but it's possible today that you might bring that work back here. And I'm sure many of you already have experienced that people are coming back, they're working, they're bringing their work here. You know, I have a daughter that does that. I know a good friend that does the same thing. So those are real big issues. I want to create a manageable budget. I mean, the budget here is a major issue, and it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of attention. It's not easy, but we're going to have to address it, and we have to address it very soon, and I hope that we can come to a compromise that works for everybody, but certainly the budget is a big issue. Twin Rivers is a big issue, and I'm going to make it public tonight that we ask for a meeting with Adam Lee. I want to sit down with Adam, and we need to discuss this openly, out of the courts, so that we can get to a reasonable relationship between Madawaska, the town, and Twin Rivers. So I'm making it public this evening that I'm asking Adam to come sit with us and discuss this issue without having to go back to court with this. And this is probably just dreaming, but I'd like to find a site, a location, an IT location, so that when people do make their way back here, whether they're vacationing or they're looking to make their way back home, that they can work. Whether we find a location here in the school system, or school buildings, or something within the town's property, but a designated area with high-speed internet access and privacy that they can actually sit down and work. For some people, it's no big deal to do this at home. It does work for a lot of people at home. But if you've got family and kids and you're having to manage what you're trying to do, and you're managing little kids running around you, I mean, it just doesn't work. So once you designate that area, and you have an area that's known for folks to come back here and have a chance to sit down and do their work, and I believe, and I think, Justin, maybe you see this as better than I do, that if we can find a location, and you're already putting some of those issues to rest, but I want to make it bigger. I want to get it so that, you know, you want to come set up your company, or you want to work for somebody else, but you want to live here. And you know, the critical factor is we want them here. That's a big issue for me. So those are some of the issues that I have. Okay, so having said that, is there anything else about this article that we want to discuss? I don't think. Yep.
I would just, you know, make it clear that any examples that I used were not to, you know, eliminate a department or come after the school, because that, you know, can tend to. The resource committee did a lot of those things, and I would like to revisit what they did.
Do I get a chance?
So, of course, we get a chance. Sorry.
I appreciate all of your comments, and they're all moving forward kind of vision comments that I can get behind. I do share a lot of your visions, and while it might always seem that way because of our busy work lives, that's the path that we envision we've been working towards. And Madawaska, has always been a service center community. Madawaska was a retail hub. We know the store is retail. We know where that's going. It's not just Madawaska that's experiencing that. It's everywhere now. And so we have to kind of reinvent ourselves. We know that we have strengths. There are some low-hanging fruit that we can pull off, such as our tourism, that we can focus on and see if we can grab some more of that tourism that comes up here, figure out a way to make the town better. I think that we have a lot of resources here that we're underutilizing. And when I say that, and Keith and I, we talk often, Keith is our economic guy, is that we have a lot of organizations in this town. We have the historical, Club Français, Senior Center, and that's Columbus. It goes on. The Four Corners. I'm missing so many, I'm sure. But all these organizations exist. They're doing their own thing. And a lot of them are pulling from very few resources, which the most important is people power, manpower. I've sat down with a lot of these organizations. Some of them have new blood, some of them have old blood. People that have been pulling the weight and having a hard time recruiting new help, and volunteerism is down. And so I think that we all, as a society, from my observation, we're also crazy busy with our lives today. We can't escape anything. We got this phone that doesn't let us rest. And we forget about everybody else in our community. We forget about all the other organizations, okay, that if they would synchronize somewhat, to some extent, that you could pull those resources together, and these people would forge relationships and pull those resources, and ideas could be born between themselves. And so our vision, we've been working towards a vision for, with the downtown and programming, and our goal is to get to Dan's comments about a way to better be able to measure metrics, measure progress. We have a plan. Here's what we're going to try to do, but we're not going to do that for 5 years if it doesn't work, right? So, our discussion is, and we've been having early discussions about, having a programming centric group, if you will, where we can pull people from these different organizations, okay, come up with brainstorming ideas for things that we can do in our town, okay? I'm not talking about spending, having concert venues, and very expensive things, just stuff that each and every organization can showcase what they do to the public in our downtown, so that the few merchants that we have, or business people that are thinking they might be able to locate into our downtown, could pull from. And those, our vision, I guess, is that whatever we do for programming, it needs to be, when we come up with an idea, I don't know what it is, for what can happen in our town, we need to say, okay, is it going to meet 6 or 7 or 8 of our 10 goals? Is it bringing seniors and with children together in our downtown? Is it causing people to come into our downtown and spend money? Is it making our downtown more vibrant or whatever, not just downtown? And I think if we can pull these people together, these organizations, okay, we're going to succeed as a community. And that's where we really want to go. Okay? There's a lot here. We talk about trying to attract other people, other businesses from away, and that's something that we should never take our eye off. But I think there's more here than we realize, and outside of our municipal boundaries as well, where we can be that place where people can come here and find something to do, take an opportunity to take advantage of resources that we might have, like Doug was alluding to, and any other thing that we can dream of. Okay? It's all possible if we're working together. And that's my pledge to this board, my pledge to this community. Thank you.
Very good. Very good, very good. Is there any other discussion about this article at this point? If there's none, then I'm going to be I guess one point of interest that I'd like to make is that I think as a board, we should all have maybe a copy of Robert's Rules. Just to familiarize ourselves, I think it would be important that we would all have a copy. Before I adjourn, I would look for a meeting, our next meeting, which I'm thinking we're trying to do next week.
We have some business to take care of. I think we should probably look into next week.
Away for a few days.
Huh?
I'm away for a few days.
What's a few days?
I'll have to double check the dates.
So today is Tuesday, so we're talking at least a week from today. So Wednesday, Thursday next week is what we're talking about?
I'm thinking right 5, 6, 7 I'll be away.
That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If we
Shoot
don't-
for Tuesday.
Or if we shoot for the following.
Okay.
Well, we typically like to get our agendas out a week in advance.
Can we go 2 weeks?
I wouldn't want to go past the 10th to take care of the business.
You typically like to get them out a week in advance, or is it a requirement?
There's no requirement, but we try to be consistent in getting the agendas out. And typically, if we have a meeting that falls out of what we consider a regular meeting or emergency meeting, we'll put a little bit more notice to the press to let them know, okay, could we get it out there that we're having a special meeting or an emergency meeting? There's nothing that says we couldn't have this meeting next Monday or Tuesday. We might just have to kind of push it out a little harder so that people are aware that we have something that was posted for less than a week in advance.
And when is our budget discussion? We have to start all over again.
Yeah.
So we should start
So,
soon.
I think that we were all waiting for revenue figures to come in from the state of Maine. The revenue forecasting committee was set to meet in the end of July, beginning of August, and I did follow up. They haven't met last week. They had not yet met. Maine Revenue Services waits for our state treasury office waits for forecasting committee to meet, so they can give a revenue projection for the next coming year. They're the state's made this year. And that revenue forecast is what determines the amount of money dispersed to the municipalities. It's supposed to be 5% of sales tax. That's been chipped away at in the last decade. It's working its way. The legislature and the governor have been working towards inching back to 5%. We made some pretty good efforts last year in our advocacy and our involvements and going to hearings in Augusta to fight to get back to 5%. We moved the needle. Super proud of that. I'm super proud of my colleagues for the work that we've done, hounding our elected officials and going to meetings and working with MMA and the Legislative Policy Committee to get revenue sharing back to the statutory 5% of sales tax. We're not there yet. In February, Revenue Services posted a nice forecast for us, for the towns in Maine, only to have that COVID hit and to get notified that please don't put any stock into that number we sent you, which would have given us about $277,000 more than the previous year. So I guess my point is, yes, I think we need to start our budget discussions. I've been working on that, the budget. Sometimes we now have hard numbers where we wouldn't have because we're so late in the process that I've been able to plug into the budget. I'm ready. Not as far as the expense side goes, I don't have the full revenue picture for you yet.
To be fair though, Gary, we would have to, and I certainly don't want to waste department heads' time, but, and we don't have to go line by line and you don't have to read, okay, $200 for this and like we did, but we really would have to start, we'd have to go over those expenses again with them, with the department heads here.
Absolutely.
And allow them to have those questions answered, so it doesn't matter if we don't have the revenue picture.
Right.
We have, like, we're starting over, so, we should do those, a couple of those meetings, get that done, so they can ask their questions, and then we'll talk about revenue and what we're gonna cut and where, but they need the initial run-through.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And pretty much ready to go on that anytime. So right now, under the emergency order, we can operate under a continuing resolution, basically operate under last year's budget until the new budget is passed by the townspeople. The executive order also allows the board, council, right, the form of government to adopt last year's budget essentially, and commit taxes without having to go to town meeting. That's not something that I'm advocating for. But that is something that is a tool that was made available. Okay? I'm not doing my job if I don't tell you that. So, yeah, I think we can start the budget process again. Timeline-wise, you know, I don't think we can wait too long before we can commit our taxes. I think October would be the very latest to commit taxes. We need to get the funds rolling back in. And we need to know. We need to know what we're doing. So from a timeline standpoint, I think, you know, if this board and finance committee would be amenable to that, would be to have a couple of very lengthy marathon kind of meetings to go over the budget together, to get it done and to get it ready for the townspeople. Sometimes in mid to late, mid-August is going to work, but sometimes in August, we can get that done. And by that time, I think we'll have a revenue number we can utilize. I think revenue is important. It's always a projection, the revenue side of things, okay? Much like the property taxes is a projection of revenue, but if something happens to the tax base in that assessing year, that revenue can quickly go away, can evaporate. So we can make big assumptions about revenue and say, well, we're going to play it safe, and if we were supposed to get $677,000, and don't quote me, that's just a number, I don't remember the number by heart. Let's only put in for half of that. Okay? Well, the flip side of that is if you can't minus that on the expense side, then you're jacking up the mill rate for that loss of revenue. And so I'd like to see the board have the benefit of being able to make an informed decision where you're not bringing up the mill rate unless you have to, if that's so choose, that's the way it goes. And on the flip side, if we under-project our revenue, that it hits our fund balance. If we over-project our revenue, sorry, to try to hold the mill rate, but then it doesn't come in this year, and that ends up hitting the fund balance, which we can't afford. So that's kind of the discussions I think that we should be having. I think we can get to work on the budget process pretty soon.
Yeah, either way, we need the initial expense run through so that they understand what each line item is for. Like we've already gone, Doug and I have already had the benefit of that.
And more so now than before, we actually have the year-end financials that are already there for you to view that. So you're going to have that much more information to help you guide you in your decision making.
So what you're proposing is to start looking at doing budget meetings separate from our regular meetings.
I think it's going to be, we typically use 3 to 4 meetings for a budget.
Right.
We make our first pass and then go back and look at this, and we do 1 or 2 or 3 departments depending on the size of the budget of each department. That could take a while.
Yeah.
We do it that way, and I know in the past we did a marathon kind of meeting on, God, what day was it? But it was
Saturday.
What was that?
Saturday workshop, you guys.
It was a
did
Saturday
that.
workshop. We did, and there was a lot to ask of the board, but we got a lot done. If the board's willing to take that on that way.
Well, we're gonna be pushed into that direction anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, we need to take a look at this.
It's our job to do, so we have to do what we're here to do.
So are we, I mean, we're getting beyond what we're talking about here for the,
Well, I wanted to know if budgets were in the next agenda, or if we were doing a separate meeting. That
So
was
it-
my point.
yep,
Because
and-
you can't do a budget meeting or have that in an agenda without Dan.
right, yep, I understand. I understand it, and,
That was my point of that question.
I think that the next, my opinion is if we could have our next meeting, we just to take care of regular business. I'm probably gonna pick up some more between now and, I've got to look to see what we have, and there might be things that slide in last minute that we might have to act on, but, as a business. But I think that if we could focus on budget, not let it be part of another meeting where we're kind of rushed through and people, I think that would be easier, in my opinion. But again, everybody's got busy schedules. We either, in a nutshell, take 3 to 4 meetings, depending on how it goes. 2 or
So-
3 departments at a time, or we have a couple of marathon-style meetings and we just get it done.
I propose we do a regular meeting on Tuesday, and then we see if we can get everybody to come for the day on Saturday.
Following Saturday.
Well, no, I
Well,
just,
he's-
I just, you know, whatever.
he's gonna be gone for 4 or 5 days, he
So
said.
he's here on Saturday.
Let me verify the dates.
Because I'm okay with that. I mean,
Yeah, something-
whatever
I
day,
mean, we have to do it. I mean, we can't, you know, it's crappy, but, I mean, then it doesn't have to be
Okay,
Saturday.
so-
I'm just-
so you're proposing that we have a meeting Tuesday, a regular meeting?
Yeah, I mean, we can't wait till
We're
the
okay with
10th.
that?
And I don't want to
Okay.
have our second meeting without Dan already.
You might want to.
It's all right. You're going to be a thorn in my side. I'm going to be, I told you, I'm going to sit right next to you once we hit the council chambers, and I'm going to smack you.
It's Tuesday,
Smack me back.
5:30? I'm assuming we're gonna be holding our meetings here too for a while?
I think that's going to be the norm for a while.
Yeah.
It seems to work good. People have enough space here, and my apologies for posting the wrong location. I pulled the, I pulled the template, if you will, to use as an agenda, and I forgot to change the location. So it went out, it got posted, and I was like, oh, lost it, and Lori reminded me and said, can you move it? But I think if this works, it's probably the best venue for us for the foreseeable future.
Okay. Any other business? Need a motion to adjourn?
Before you go, or you can adjourn, I got signatures for you. I have some stuff, the bylaws. I have some handouts. I also have some information here. On August 19th, there's an elected officials workshop that MMA puts on periodically throughout the year. On August 19th, it's a Zoom. I need to register anybody who's interested. It's highly recommended. You come to the town office and you can take part in that there, or you can do it from the comfort of your own home, I believe. You have the computer and all that stuff. So let me know if you're interested. Subscribe you to this workshop. Sooner the better. 4:30 to 7:30. Yeah, August 19th.
I got a lot out of it, so if it's something you guys can do, I don't know.
I've got the information here. So when you guys can sign the stuff.
Yep.
I'll-
I got a motion?
Second, Manos.
Okay, all in favor? Meeting is adjourned.